A voice like mine usually promises exactly this kind of calm. Lions dozing in the golden sunset, a herd of elephants drifting across the open plain, the slow, soothing kind of thing you could fall asleep to. Please do feel free to try, but not today, because none of this is what you came for. We are hunting something far harder to find, an entire civilization that vanished without leaving a single bone behind. For over 2,000 years, the world has searched for a single lost city. Most people think it is a fairy tale, a bedtime story for dreamers. But the man who first wrote it down was history's greatest philosopher, and he insisted again and again that it was true. A vast and brilliant civilization, more advanced than its age had any right to be, swallowed whole by the sea in a single terrible day and night. For 24 centuries we have chased it, mocked it and hunted it to the bottom of the ocean. And yet the evidence, the strange, stubborn evidence, refuses to die. So let us do something different. Let us follow the clues one by one and ask the only question that truly matters. What if the myth is not a lie, but a memory? The story does not begin with a treasure hunter. It begins with Plato, the father of Western philosophy, around 360 BC. In two of his dialogues, he tells of a tale passed down through his own family. Generations earlier, the great Athenian lawmaker Solon had traveled to Egypt, to the ancient temple city of Sais. And there, the Egyptian priests told him that the Greeks were like children, with no memory of the deep past. For there had once been, they said, a mighty power beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the rock gateway we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Plato's description is astonishing. An island larger than Libya and Asia combined. A capital laid out in perfect concentric rings of land and water, joined by bridges and canals. At its center, a temple to the sea god Poseidon, gleaming with silver, gold, and a strange red metal they prized above all, which they called orichalcum. We still are not entirely sure what it was, which has never once stopped anyone from claiming to sell it. 10 kings ruled this empire. Its fleets spread across the Mediterranean, conquering nation after nation, until at last they met a people who would not kneel, the Athenians. And it was then, at the height of its pride, that Atlantis met its end. For most historians, the answer is simple. Plato invented it. They argue that Atlantis is a parable, a warning about arrogance and the corruption of power, dressed up as history. And they may well be right. To be fair to Plato, though, if you are going to invent a story, you do not usually bother to include the measurements. But there is a detail that has nagged at serious scholars for centuries. Plato did not write like a man spinning a fable. He gave measurements, he gave materials, he gave a geography. And, strangest of all, he gave a date. The destruction, the priests said, had happened 9,000 years before their time. That places the fall of Atlantis around 11,600 years ago. For an invented metaphor, that number is bizarre, far too old, and far too specific. And yet it is not empty. It lands almost exactly on the single most violent natural event in the story of the human race. Remember that number. We will return to it. But first, the search. Because scientists have found, scattered across the Earth, real places that fit Plato's impossible description. Our strongest scientific lead lies in the Aegean Sea. 3,500 years ago, these waters were ruled by the Minoans, Europe's first true civilization. They were master sailors who traded across the known world, builders of sprawling palaces like Knossos, with running water and dazzling frescoes, centuries ahead of mainland Greece. And their world was built around a beautiful, ring-shaped volcanic island called Thera. Then, around 1600 BC, Thera erupted. It was one of the most violent eruptions in human history, many times more powerful than Krakatoa. The heart of the island collapsed into the sea, leaving the great curved cliffs we now call Santorini. The blast hurled tsunamis across the water to batter the shores of Crete. And on Thera, the rich port city of Akrotiri was buried alive beneath meters of ash, a Bronze Age Pompeii. An advanced island culture encircled by rings of water, shattered by the sea almost in a single day. To many archaeologists, the parallel is too sharp to ignore. The memory of the Minoan catastrophe, retold across 1,000 years, may be the true seed of the legend. But Thera has a problem. It is too small, too recent, and in the wrong place. Atlantis, it seems, simply refuses to fit, almost as if it does not want to be found. Plato was insistent. Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, out in the open Atlantic. And that points us toward the strangest candidate of all. Deep in the desert of Mauritania lies a formation so vast it is best seen from space. They call it the Richat Structure, the Eye of the Sahara. It is a set of concentric rings, some 23 kilometers across, circling a central point like ripples in water. Lay Plato's words beside it, and the resemblance is unsettling. The right shape, close to the right size, out beyond Gibraltar, just as he said. And the desert was not always desert. A few thousand years ago, the Sahara was green, alive with rivers and animals and people. Geologists affirm the eye is natural rock, worn down over millions of years. No ruins, no city, nothing to see here. Which is, of course, exactly what one would say about a perfectly circular coincidence the size of a small country. And their case is strong. But stand back, look at those perfect rings in the sand, and try to convince yourself it means nothing. It is harder than it should be. Here is what even the skeptics cannot wave away. Lost lands are not fantasy. They are documented fact. Beneath the cold grey waves of the North Sea lies an entire drowned country. Scientists call it Doggerland. 10,000 years ago, it was not sea at all, but a vast, fertile plain of rivers and hills that joined Britain to Europe. Britain, it turns out, once had a land border. The fish have been quietly enjoying the upgrade ever since. People lived there. They hunted, they fished, they buried their dead. Then the last ice age ended, the glaciers melted, and the seas climbed until Doggerland vanished beneath the water. To this day, fishing trawlers haul up ancient bones and stone tools from the seabed. And Doggerland is not alone. Off the coast of Greece lies Pavlopetri, a real sunken city. In the waters of India, the ruins near Dwarka. The conclusion is impossible to escape. The sea has already swallowed inhabited lands more than once. The only thing Atlantis really asks is how advanced one of those vanished worlds might have been. And now we return to that date, 11,600 years ago, because something happened then, something enormous and entirely real. Scientists call it the Younger Dryas. For thousands of years, the Earth had been warming, the ice sheets retreating, and then, in the blink of a geological eye, the planet was hurled violently back into the cold. Temperatures plunged. The great animals of the Ice Age, the mammoths, the saber-toothed cats, were wiped out in a wave of extinction. And across North America, geologists keep finding a thin, dark layer in the soil from precisely this moment, rich in microscopic spheres forged in tremendous heat. To a growing number of scientists, the implication is staggering. A comet striking the Earth or detonating above the northern ice. The result would have been firestorms, sudden darkness, and the collapse of vast ice dams, releasing walls of floodwater that redrew the world's coastlines in days. Since the Ice Age, the global sea has risen some 120 meters. The lands where early humans lived are now far offshore, deep beneath the waves. And the moment it all began falls almost exactly on Plato's date for the death of Atlantis. A coincidence? Or the echo of something our ancestors truly witnessed? Maybe that is the answer that fits best of all. Look across the ancient world, and you find again and again the very same story. A great flood that destroyed a former age of humankind. The people of Mesopotamia carved it into clay in the Epic of Gilgamesh, 1,000 years before the Bible told of Noah. The Greeks had their own deluge, so did the peoples of India, the Americas, and the Pacific. Different gods, different languages, the same haunting memory. A world before, washed away by water. Perhaps Atlantis was never one golden city, waiting on one patch of seabed. Perhaps it is something larger, the echo of every drowned world at once. Thera, Doggerland. The countless coastlines erased when the ice melted and the oceans rose. All of it pressed together across 10,000 years of firelight and storytelling into a single, unforgettable legend. We may never find a city of gold resting on the ocean floor, but the deeper truth of Atlantis may already be proven, written in the rock, the ice, and the drowned plains beneath our seas. No civilization is permanent. The sea has swallowed worlds before, and one day perhaps it will again. That may be the real warning Plato tried to carry across the centuries. Not a map to a lost city, a message about us. The sea remembers what we choose to forget. Follow Scrolls Untold for the mysteries history left unsolved.